Hey, I'm Christina from Come Train It. Today we're just going to talk about house manners when you are and when you are not home. Here's my whiteboard. I have Sam practicing his place right now. He's got a leash on and I have his e-collar on to correct him back to his bed if he needs. So let's get into it. So when you're not home, your dog is in the kennel where they're safe, they're not getting into mischief. A lot of the problems that arise, like chewing up walls, chewing up couches, happens when you're not home. So we practice kennel behaviors here, and when your dog goes home, they will be kennel trained and they will be expected to stay in their kennel when nobody is around to supervise them. If no one's around and you're gonna be gone more than 2 to 3 hours, we would recommend that you take off the e-collar because you're not able to rotate it, obviously, for that period of time, just to prevent any irritations from the prongs on the skin sitting there. So, and our other rule is you do not leave a prong collar on in a crate ever. It's a risk that the prongs will get caught, especially on the wire kennels. And that also goes for if your dog is playing with other dogs, you are not to leave the prong collar on because teeth can get stuck and it's a messy situation. So when you are walking your dog or training, use your prong collar if your trainer has suggested you use one. Okay, so when you are home, we've got a few different options here. So if you're home but you are not able to supervise your dog, so for example, you're going to bed or you're just really busy, you do not have time to watch this dog at all, then the dog goes in the kennel. And you can leave the e-collar on because you can, from afar, if they're crying, I could give him a little correction and get him to lay down again. Our dogs are trained here that if they feel the stim while they're in their kennels, they need to lay down and be quiet. So your dog will go home knowing that. And even if you are able to supervise your dog, it is still very beneficial to practice kennel behavior even when you're home and even when you are around. So make time to do that as well. And like I have here, use your e-collar to enforce the manners. So no crying, whining, screaming, general nonsense. If they're very anxious dogs, it is also very beneficial. We get our dogs laying down when they're in the kennels. That's what's expected of them. Okay, so the next one, I have structured time. And so this is time out of the kennel, but they still have rules. So when they're out of the kennel, but I'm not directly engaging with the dog in anything, the dog is expected to be on place or holding a down stay somewhere. So that just means they're maybe just laying down over there. They're not on a bed. Place means laying down on a bed. And they need to stay there until I tell them otherwise. So that is exactly what Sam is doing right now. And like I said, this is something you would have your gear on for because when he hears the doorbell ring, he might get off the bed. And I will give him a little correction and guide him back to his bed, and that's why it's good to have the leash. Until the dog starts getting the hang of it and you start getting the hang of it and you notice you don't really need to use the leash so much, they get it from the e-collar, then you can start moving away from a leash if you want. Okay, so like I said, e-collar to enforce the place or down if they break it. Yeah, keep a leash. So. And we recommend that all our dogs going home the first few weeks, you leave a leash on the dog when you're practicing this structured time out of the kennel for reasons like I said. You can correct them, but it's also new holding place at your house. They're relearning where their place is and where their bed is. So you having the leash on the dog allows you to move them physically back to the bed more easily. Okay, and they are expected to hold place no matter what's going on. And this may take some repetitions because If you've got like other kids or dogs at home and they're used to behaving a certain way, they're not used to holding place at your house. This is gonna take some time to get them into the new rhythm of how things go. And here we have the free or the break time. So this is on your terms. We use the release word BREAK with our dogs. I don't want to say it because I don't want him to hear it. But that means your dog is free to play, free to do whatever. It's his time. This time, if it's inside your home, I would definitely recommend that it's supervised to make sure your dog doesn't get into any nonsense at home. If you have a safe area where they can't get into trouble, like a playpen or a fully fenced backyard, and they get along well with, you know, if there's any other dogs they get along, we're assuming, then it can be unsupervised. Okay, so that's everything I have for you guys on house manners. This is a pretty general guideline, and like I said, with dogs that have behavioral issues, that have aggression issues with other dogs in the house or with people, we definitely lean heavy on the structured time and kennel time. As your dog has been doing well with this blueprint for maybe months now after training, and you think they're ready for a little bit more freedom, you can adjust that as you feel is suitable. So keep that in mind. There also may be further recommendations that we make on a case-to-case basis. But in general, that is our blueprint. And Sam is doing great practicing. And any questions or anything, you can reach out to us at Come and Train at K9.